She was humiliated at graduation until her billionaire fiancé stepped in and turned her moment of shame into a powerful lesson for everyone who doubted her. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. The vast auditorium of Westfield University buzzed with excitement as graduating students in their caps and gowns filed into their seats. Bright lights illuminated the stage where university officials sat in their ceremonial regalia, faces beaming with pride. Among the sea of graduates sat Olivia Chen, 32, her eyes focused on the empty seat beside her where her fiancé should have. "Ben, he promised he'd be here," Olivia whispered to herself, checking her phone one more time. No messages. She sighed, tucking it away in the small clutch beneath her gown. After years of night classes while working full-time at a local community center, she had finally completed her master's in social work. James had been supportive throughout, but his absence today stung. The university president approached the podium, his voice booming through the speakers. "Welcome, graduates, families, and friends, to the commencement ceremony for the class of 2025. The crowd erupted in applause. Olivia clapped along, trying to push away her disappointment. 2 rows ahead, she spotted Melissa Wellington, the daughter of the university's biggest donor, taking selfies with her friends. Melissa had never acknowledged Olivia during their shared classes, despite Olivia's attempts at friendliness. The social hierarchy at Westfield remained firmly intact, even among adult students. As the ceremony progressed, names were called alphabetically. When Olivia Chen echoed through the auditorium, she stood, straightened her gown, and walked toward the stage. Her heart pounded with pride, thinking of her immigrant parents who had worked multiple jobs to give her opportunities they never had. Just as she reached the stairs to the stage, a hand gripped her arm. "Excuse me," said a stern-faced woman in a university blazer. "I need to see your ID." "My ID?" Olivia asked, confused. No one else had been stopped. "Yes, there's been a concern about unauthorized attendees," the woman explained, her voice hushed, but firm. Olivia fumbled in her clutch, pulling out her student ID. "I'm a graduate. My name was just called." The woman examined the ID with skepticism. "This doesn't match our verification list. I'm afraid you'll need to step aside while we sort this out." "But they just called my name," Olivia protested, her voice rising slightly. Students nearby began to stare. "Please lower your voice," the woman insisted. "Security can escort you to the verification desk." Melissa Wellington, who had received her diploma moments earlier, passed by with a smirk. "Some people will do anything for attention," she muttered, loudly enough for those nearby to hear. Tears welled in Olivia's eyes as a security guard approached. The stage manager had already called the next name, moving on as if Olivia's moment had never existed. Suddenly, a commotion at the back of the auditorium drew everyone's attention. The large double doors swung open, and in walked James Reed, CEO of Next Gen Technologies and one of the country's youngest billionaires. Despite his wealth, James maintained a low profile, and few recognized him outside business circles. James strode confidently down the aisle, his tailored suit contrasting with the casual attire of most attendees' families. He nodded politely to those who stared, making his way directly to where Olivia stood with the security guard. "I apologize for my tardiness," he said, his voice warm as he reached Olivia. "A medical emergency required my attention." He turned to the woman who had stopped Olivia. "Is there a problem here?" The university official's demeanor changed instantly when she recognized him. "Mr. Reed, I had no idea. We were just following protocol." "Protocol that seems to apply only to certain graduates?" James questioned, his tone polite but firm. "My fiancé's name was called. She's earned her place on that stage." The university president, noticing the disruption, approached with a forced smile. "Mr. Reed," What an unexpected pleasure! We had no idea you were connected to our institution. I'm not, James replied simply. But Olivia is, and she deserves the same respect as every other graduate here today. The president cleared his throat nervously. Of course, a simple misunderstanding. He turned to the woman who had stopped Olivia. Let's get Ms. Chen back in the procession immediately. But James raised his hand. Actually, I think we should address why this happened in the first place. Olivia was the only graduate stopped for verification. Why is that? A hush fell over the auditorium as students and parents alike tuned into the drama unfolding. The university president's smile faltered. I've experienced this kind of misunderstanding my entire academic career, Olivia said, finding her voice. I didn't want to believe it was happening at my graduation. Melissa Wellington, who had been watching with growing discomfort, stepped forward unexpectedly. It was me, she admitted, her voice shaking. I told security she didn't belong here. I was jealous. Olivia earned everything I had handed to me. The admission sent whispers rippling through the crowd. James looked at Olivia, silently asking how she wanted to handle this moment. Olivia took a deep breath. I don't want special treatment because of who my fiancé is. I just want what I've earned, the same as everyone else here. The university president, sensing a potential PR disaster, quickly took control. Let's rectify this situation immediately. Ms. Chen, please join me on stage. As Olivia ascended the steps, the entire auditorium broke into applause, not because of her connection to James Reed, but because they had witnessed someone stand up for what was right. James remained at the bottom of the stairs, allowing Olivia her moment in the spotlight. When she received her diploma, she raised it high, tears of pride replacing those of hurt from moments earlier. Olivia Chen, Master of Social Work, with highest honors, the president announced, adding the last part despite it not being on the program. The applause grew louder. Later, at a small celebration in a downtown restaurant, Olivia sat surrounded by a few close friends and James. The incident at graduation had already been forgotten by most, replaced by the joy of accomplishment. I'm sorry I missed the beginning, James said quietly, touching her hand. The emergency flight from Chicago was delayed. You arrived exactly when you needed to, Olivia replied, squeezing his hand. Though I would have handled it eventually, I know you would have, James smiled. That's why I love you. You've never needed me to fight your battles. Melissa Wellington appeared at their table, looking uncomfortable. I came to apologize properly, she said. What I did was inexcusable. Olivia studied her for a moment. The community center where I work needs volunteers for our summer program. If you're serious about making amends, we could use someone with your organizational skills. Melissa nodded slowly. I'd like that. Thank you for the second chance. Melissa walked away. James leaned closer to Olivia. You're remarkable, you know that? Most people would have demanded her head on a platter. Holding grudges doesn't help anyone, Olivia replied. Besides, transforming opponents into allies is more effective than creating enemies. The autumn sun streamed through the floor-to-ceiling. Windows of the Reed Foundation's newly inaugurated headquarters in downtown Seattle. The building itself was a testament to James and Olivia's shared vision. A renovation of a historic structure rather than a gleaming new skyscraper, preserving the character of the neighborhood while creating a space for innovation and change. The main conference hall buzzed with anticipation as representatives from educational institutions, nonprofit organizations, civil rights groups, and media outlets gathered for the official launch of the Education Equality Initiative. Olivia stood at the podium, her posture confident but humble. She had grown in these past 6 months, not just professionally, but in her sense of purpose. The navy blue suit she wore was modest, a deliberate choice to ensure the focus remained on the message, rather than the messenger. Behind her, a banner in soft blue and gold proclaimed, Education Equality Initiative, because everyone deserves their moment. The slogan had been her idea, a direct reference to the moment she had nearly been denied at her graduation. What began as a personal experience has evolved into something much larger. She addressed the crowd, her voice steady and clear through the microphone. Our initiative isn't just about preventing discrimination in educational settings, it's about creating environments where every student knows they belong, where achievement is recognized regardless of background, appearance, or connections. In the front row, James watched with undisguised pride. At 36, he had already revolutionized the tech industry with next-gen technologies, creating software solutions that democratized access to digital resources. But nothing in his professional life had given him the sense of fulfillment he felt watching Olivia transform her painful experience into a catalyst for systemic change. Their wedding was scheduled for the following month, a small ceremony in Olivia's parents' backyard, despite the media's growing interest in their relationship. James had insisted on respecting Olivia's desire for privacy and authenticity, qualities that had drawn him to her in the first place. Next to James sat Melissa Wellington, her transformation perhaps the most surprising outcome of the graduation incident. The former privileged socialite now served as the foundation's volunteer coordinator, her organizational skills and extensive network proving invaluable. The superficiality that had once defined her worldview had gradually eroded through working alongside those she had previously dismissed. She still struggled at times with her implicit biases, but her commitment to growth was genuine. Her father, initially bewildered by her decision to work for a salary well below what he considered appropriate for a Wellington, had recently begun asking thoughtful questions about the foundation's work. "The statistics are clear," Olivia continued, gesturing toward the presentation screen behind her, which displayed meticulously researched data. "Students from marginalized backgrounds face disproportionate barriers to recognition and advancement in educational settings. These barriers aren't always as obvious as what I experienced. Often they're subtle, systemic, and all the more pernicious for their invisibility." The data had been compiled by Dr. Marcus Johnson, a respected educational researcher who had joined the foundation as director of research. Marcus sat several rows back, nodding as Olivia highlighted key findings from his team's work. He had been skeptical when first approached about the position, concerned that the foundation might be more about optics than impact. But Olivia's integrity and James's commitment to data-driven solutions had convinced him to leave his tenured university position. "Over the next 5 years," Olivia explained, "the Education Equality Initiative will implement 3 core programs." She outlined each one with precision: a comprehensive bias training program for educational administrators and faculty, a scholarship fund for students who had overcome significant barriers, and an advocacy arm focused on policy reform at state and federal levels. What she didn't mention was the countless hours spent developing these programs, late nights at their dining room table with James bringing her coffee as she refined grant proposals, tense meetings with potential partners who questioned her credentials. The morning she had broken down in tears, wondering if she was qualified to lead such an ambitious effort. James had reminded her then that her lived experience, combined with her academic training in social work, provided exactly the perspective needed. Among the audience members was Professor Elaine Harper, who had been Olivia's mentor throughout her master's program. The older woman beamed with pride at her former student. She had recognized Olivia's potential from the beginning. Her analytical mind, coupled with deep empathy, made her uniquely suited for systems-level change. What Professor Harper couldn't have predicted was how Olivia would find the platform to amplify her voice. "We've already secured partnerships with 23 universities across 12 states, Olivia announced, including Westfield University. A murmur rippled through the audience. The inclusion of Westfield, the site of her humiliation, was significant. The university's new president, Dr. Vanessa Rodriguez, who had replaced the former administration following a series of scandals, had reached out personally to Olivia, determined to transform the institution's culture. In the corner of the room stood Olivia's parents, Raymond and Mei Chen, watching their daughter with quiet pride. Immigrants from Taiwan who had worked tirelessly to provide opportunities for Olivia and her younger brother, they had initially been concerned about her relationship with James. "His world is not our world," her father had cautioned, but seeing how James supported Olivia's vision, not as a benefactor but as a true partner, had gradually won them over. "Perhaps the most innovative aspect of our initiative," Olivia continued, "is our commitment to measuring impact beyond traditional metrics." She explained the Foundation's unique evaluation framework, which included not just quantitative outcomes like increased graduation rates, but qualitative measures of belonging and psychological safety. Because true equality isn't just about who receives the diploma, it's about the dignity of the journey. The framework had been developed in collaboration with Dr. Aisha Patel, a renowned psychologist specializing in educational environments, who had joined the Foundation's advisory board. Dr. Patel had been drawn to the project after reading about Olivia's experience in a national newspaper. "This is exactly the kind of real-world application my research has been building toward," she had told Olivia during their first meeting. As Olivia spoke, James reflected on the whirlwind of the past 6 months. When he had walked into that auditorium on graduation day, he had simply been a man determined to support the woman he loved. He hadn't anticipated the ripple effects, the social media storm that erupted when video of the incident went viral, the flood of similar stories from students across the country, the uncomfortable conversations with his own board members about representation within next-gen technologies. Those conversations had led to concrete changes within his company as well. NextGen had implemented new hiring practices, expanded its internship program to include more students from underrepresented backgrounds, and established a tech education initiative in partnership with community colleges. James had realized that his position afforded him the opportunity to effect change across multiple spheres, an opportunity he now embraced fully. "Sometimes," Olivia said, her voice softening with emotion, "it takes a moment of injustice to spark a movement of change. I'm grateful for my experience not because of how it ended, but because it revealed what needed to be fixed. Each of us in this room has the power to notice, to speak up, and to act when we witness inequality." The audience broke into enthusiastic applause. In the second row, a young journalist from the Chronicle of Higher Education scribbled notes furiously. Beside her, a representative from the Department of Education listened intently, impressed by the Foundation's comprehensive approach. Among those applauding was Carlos Vasquez, a student from East Los Angeles who had been selected as one of the first scholarship recipients. His path to college had been fraught with obstacles: financial hardship, a high school counselor who discouraged his ambitions, and family responsibilities that competed with his studies. The Foundation's support had made it possible for him to attend his dream school without crushing debt. More importantly, the mentorship component of the scholarship program had connected him with professionals in his field who looked like him and understood his journey. As Olivia concluded her speech and stepped down from the podium, the room erupted in a standing ovation. James approached with a bouquet of blue hydrangeas, her favorite flowers, simple and elegant, like the woman herself. "Dr. Chen has a nice ring to it," he whispered, referring to her recent acceptance into a doctoral program in social policy at the University of Washington. She had initially hesitated to apply, concerned about balancing her studies with the Foundation's work. But James had encouraged her to pursue her academic goals alongside her advocacy. "One degree at a time," she laughed, taking his arm. The doctoral program would be challenging, especially alongside her role at the Foundation, but Olivia had never shied away from hard work. Her research would focus on institutional barriers to educational equity, a perfect complement to the Foundation's practical applications. "And this time, I expect you to be on time for graduation," she added teasingly, referencing the day that had changed both their lives. I wouldn't miss it for the world, he promised, his expression growing serious. Not a minute of it. As they moved through the crowd, accepting congratulations and engaging with partners and supporters, Olivia caught sight of a familiar face, the security guard who had tried to escort her from the graduation stage. The woman had reached out months later, apologizing for her role in the incident and explaining that she had been following instructions from administration. Now she worked in the foundation's office, committed to ensuring that security protocols in educational settings were implemented equitably. Later that evening, as the event wound down, Olivia and James found a quiet moment alone on the building's rooftop garden, another of their collaborative projects designed to provide a peaceful, green space in the urban environment. The Seattle skyline glittered before them, the Space Needle illuminated against the darkening sky. "Did you ever imagine this?" Olivia asked, gesturing toward the city below. "When you walked into that auditorium 6 months ago?" James shook his head. "I only knew I needed to be there for you. Everything else." He gestured to encompass not just the building but the foundation, their partnership, the movement they had helped ignite. "This is all because of who you are, Olivia. Your compassion, your vision, your unwillingness to stay silent." She leaned against him, drawing strength from his steady presence. "It's who we are together," she corrected gently. "Neither of us could have done this alone." As they stood there, planning their next steps both personally and professionally, they embodied the truth at the heart of their foundation's mission, that lasting change comes not from grand gestures or individual heroes, but from partnerships, built on mutual respect, shared values, and a commitment to justice. Their future, as individuals, as a couple, and as catalysts for change, stretched before them, full of challenges but bright with possibility. When they finally left the rooftop, hand in hand, they walked not as a billionaire and his fiancée, not as savior and saved, but as equals embarking on a journey toward a more equitable world, one graduation ceremony, one student, one institution at a time.